Well, hello, everybody. It's Chad on behalf of the RMGVG in Colorado Giants or ColoradoPumpkins.com. Tonight, we have a wonderful interview with an all around good guy, the second best grower in Colorado, second to only some other Yahoo. We got Brad Bledsoe on tonight. Brad may be a relatively new grower, but that doesn't discount any of the experience that he has. And I think it's very valuable to, a lot of people who are watching this, who are new, that may be intimidated by the process. Brad has been doing great the last few years. And if Brad can do it, you can do it because, Brad is not the sharpest tool in the shed. And I'm going to be harassing Brad the entire interview, and he'll harass me. It'll be a good time. It's lighthearted fun, so nobody get offended. If you have questions, ask them off to the side. And fair warning, at some point, I may switch to my cell phone because I forgot my charger or somebody stole my charger. And so it may look a little bit different, but just FYI, we'll figure it out. So without further ado, Brad Bledsoe is a fire medic in the city of Aurora by day. He has two amazing feral children whose names are Violet, Poppy, and he's also a husband to an amazing wife named Stacy. Brad started growing in 2022 and grew the second biggest pumpkin in Colorado state history in 325 square feet, literally in his front yard. In 2023, he grew the Colorado state record tall sunflower. And Jeff is already offended. Darn it, Jeff. So without further ado, let's bring Brad onto the stage. Hello, Brad. How are you, sir?
Good. How's everybody else doing tonight?
Well, Jeff's offended, unfortunately. We offended Jeff. We got somebody annoyed right off the get-go. Sorry, Jeff. You'll get over it.
Well, thanks for having me. There's been some really great growers you've had on so far, so big shoes to fill tonight, but I'm excited to answer any questions and kind of talk about what I've been up to. So
yeah, definitely. We're excited to dive into it, and it's worth noting Jason just texted me. We have two more growers scheduled, and then we're going to slow down. It's not going to be a weekly thing because everybody's busy. I'm getting busy and Brad's getting busy, and everybody who's growing a giant pumpkin, we're all kind of getting busy. That mad dash to finish the prep and get the plants in the ground, which is a great place to start off with Brad. Brad, tell us about what you got going on this year that's different from your last 2 years.
So we moved at the end of September, just a little outside of town, about 7 miles out north of Fort Collins. We have been building a greenhouse since like November. It's not done, but hopefully this weekend we might be able to put plastic up and then finish electrical, and then we're ready to get plants into the ground and get rocking.
That's awesome. So, okay, what can you tell us about your greenhouse? How big is it? How green is it?
Yeah, it's 92 foot long by 34 foot wide, so 3,200 square foot. My wife just got home and is making funny faces at me, so don't mind if I get distracted. It's a Zimmerman greenhouse, which they come out of Missouri. They have a little bit thicker poles. And then we did some really narrow spacing just to combat the wind out here. Because if I was a guessing man, I'm probably second in wind speed next to Andy Corbin. So
for sure. If you're, we'll talk quietly. How much was your greenhouse since your wife's home?
So the greenhouse actually ran me about $20,000. But one of the another pumpkin grower actually caught me onto this, but NRCS does, which I think most states have it. It's a district through the USDA, and they offer basically high tunnel funding. So I've been in the process for a couple of years, basically when I started, and I was approved this year. So as soon as I get that thing skinned and they come out and check it out, then I should be reimbursed for a decent amount of it. I mean, there's still a lot of money that I've going to have to pay up front, but any money coming back is a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that this is a nice looking greenhouse. Can you tell us about, what it's been like building it? Have there been any challenges that you perhaps didn't expect, weren't prepared for, or anything along those lines?
No, I mean, first off, we got it leveled, which was kind of a pain, but I had a buddy who came out, laser leveled it. We got all the dirt worked, so it should be level across the whole entire patch. When we moved in, we had super heavy clay. I broke my rototiller, and then I bought a new rototiller, not a great one, and it broke. So then I decided just to rent rototillers. Broke the rental rototiller, and then the fourth rototiller was able to get that ground kind of nice and soft. We planted a cover crop of winter rye, and then got our side posts in. So 48 side posts, 4 foot deep. And then basically for like the next 2 months, I built the arches in a barn that we have out back, and then got them out here. Jason came up, a few other people came up to help put those on. But not really any sort of challenges. The biggest challenge is that Zimmerman doesn't have great instructions. They're like misinstructions. So I don't know if people know Jay Richard up in Worland, Wyoming, but he built a Zimmerman greenhouse the season before. So I've probably called him way more times than he would like to ask him questions like, hey, what did you do here? The directions are not clear. And then he's been able to walk me through it. And usually pictures just help since I can't read.
Yeah, that's right. Words are hard. You just see a fire, put the fire out. That's all. That's all you know how to do.
Yep. Save cats.
So let's talk about 2 years ago. So your origin story. How did you get started in the weird, wacky, fun hobby of growing giant pumpkins?
So I've always been into gardening. I kind of grew up on a farm because I got into trouble as a young man. So I had to go work on the farm with my grandpa. And I remember my grandpa just throwing big giant pumpkin seeds out in the ground and then having 70 to 100-pound pumpkins. But I've always been into gardening, and we've always had this section in the yard that just didn't make sense to me. Like, no windows face it. It's just wasted space, and it had grass. It's just absorbing water for no purpose. So my wife was like, why don't we just grow a pumpkin there? And I was like, okay, but if we grow a pumpkin, we should grow a big one. So we threw a seed down, and then as we started growing that year, it was like, well, what actually makes these grow big? And that's when I started doing research, getting on the Facebook groups, and then realizing that I had done absolutely nothing right that year. But everybody in the neighborhood was still excited by like a 200-pound pumpkin. Had lots of questions. It took up that little 300 square foot patch. And then that next winter was when we went full-fledged into the research and like, all right, let's see how big we can actually grow one in this space.
And then year number 2, what did you learn? So year number 1, you had a 200-pound pumpkin?
Yeah, roughly.
So then year number 2, what did you have?
Year number 2, we had a 1,729-pound pumpkin, 50 pounds behind you.
What changed? What changed? What did you change that allowed you to have a 1,500-pound increase? That's whatever percentage that is, it's huge.
So we started with the soil test. I mean, I think that's the most important, because if it's not balanced, you're not going to get a big pumpkin. So we sent that off to Western Labs, tried to get that balanced. I honestly kind of got it out of whack, but all the levels were elevated. But I think everything was balanced, even though they were elevated. And then it was just vine management, consistent watering, consistent fertilizing. So yeah, that first year we didn't do any of that. I mean, we grew a spider web of a pumpkin. Then we just did the Christmas tree. We put drip tape down, found a way to fertilize through that drip tape. put in a big IBC tote to basically try to evaporate that chlorine off. We pH the water, and then we just threw the works at it. All kinds of different fertilizers and biologicals.
Gotcha. So because of your profession, you're gone for a lot. There was, I enjoyed you telling the story is about how that grow was in part kind of a community effort. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Oh yeah. Definitely not embarrassed to say that lots of people have helped me out along the way. So we built a 4x6 cold frame to get started early, because there's no other way to get started early in Colorado without it. The first one blew away into the neighbor's yard, realized I had to build that a little bit more sturdy. But then I'd be away at work and the wind was blowing at 6 a.m. when I leave for work. And so I didn't undo our ends of plastic. And then I look at my phone and the temperature is 110 degrees inside there. So then I've got to call my neighbor who's retired. And I'm like, hey, Greg, are you home? Can you swing over? Can you open that up? And then he's like, sure, no problem. And then I'd get a text like 2 hours later, like, hey, the wind's really blowing. Like, do you want me to close it up? And I'm like, yeah, close that thing up. My wife should be home in a couple hours and we can go back and forth. So yeah, lots of people have helped us. My wife helps when I'm at work. I try to water early in the morning, like 4 a.m. before I leave, but I'm not able to do an evening water. And I'm not able to do that next morning watering because I'm going to be home at like 11. So, I mean, tons of people have helped. Then when we lifted the pumpkin, basically the whole neighborhood came out and I built a tripod and it took like 8 hours. I thought it was going to take like an hour, and we dropped the tripod a couple times because I was moving much faster than my 80-year-old neighbors. So we've had a lot of challenges, but we've also had some good successes.
Yeah. When you grew, what did it feel like growing a pumpkin that big as a second-year grower? Because at that point, I'm trying to remember, you were kind of plugged into the local scene a good bit, and you were asking questions, and you were on the radar of growers, but I don't think anybody expected you to grow a pumpkin that big in year number 2. What did that make you feel like? Were you like super excited, or was it a little surreal? Just kind of tell us what that felt like.
There's a little bit of excitement and surreal. Like, we set out that year with the goal of just growing 1,000 pounds. And honestly, when I set that goal, I was like, this might not be obtainable. I mean, we're going to try. We're going to throw everything we can at it and be out there in the patch, vine bearing and all of that stuff. But then when I realized early on, we were already at 500 pounds at day 30. And I'd have to look at what the actual numbers were, but I knew early on, I was like, we're going to hit 1,000 pounds. And then everything else past that is just gravy. And then at the time, the state record was 1683. And I was like, we might have a chance to break this thing if somebody else doesn't break it before me. Because we were measuring, I think, 1699, and it went 3% heavy for 1729. And you just happened to beat the record by 100 pounds the week before.
Yeah. And you pre-weighed your pumpkin before you went to a weigh off, right?
I know that's I got busted there, but I kind of wanted to know what that weight was. I was never the kid that could wait on Christmas Day to wait, so I had to take a sneak peek. I didn't know how accurate it was, but I knew that we weren't quite as big as you were the week before. And I was like, yeah, maybe the scale will give me 40 extra pounds.
So what was that? What was that like? Because, you obviously had to have a little bit of excitement there. Like, did you, were you really excited going into that weighing? And then what did you feel when it didn't go as heavy as you wanted it to? Was it a letdown? Were you like still like, it's okay, we're still good? Kind of what were those feelings there?
No, definitely not a letdown. I mean, it was an incredible year. I mean, way above expectations and a fairly small plot in the front yard. Yeah, I was excited. There were some other great growers there that week that I was nervous that might beat me at that way off in Fort Collins. You were there. You had your 2365 Wolf. It just went super light on you. And then France up in Cheyenne had another one that just is shaped super heavy. And it did go heavy. And I was like, crap, we might be second place. Now, I wasn't necessarily concerned about the state record. I just wanted to win the weigh off. Basically, my first year really trying to be competitive.
Yeah. And there's the beast there. What was its name?
That was Greta. No.
Yeah.
Was that Greta?
Greta was
Yep. Sorry, I had to. My wife had to remind me. Yep, that was Greta.
That's good. It's obvious who the brains of the operation is in the Bledsoe household.
That's the truth.
I like the yep. And she's modest too.
Humble brag.
Oh, that's great. What do you do when you are not growing giant pumpkins during the summer? What do you guys like to do as a family?
We like to go hiking, fishing, camping. Even though last year our camping trip I wasn't able to make because we had the patch tour and I was on it. Just spend as much time outside as we possibly can. We go to the pool a ton with the kiddos, kind of just whatever they want to do. I mean, we have young kids, so it's at this point, it's like, all right, you want to go to the pool today? Cool. I've got time to do pumpkin growing later. Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah. So the challenges in, Colorado, what challenges do you think are unique to Colorado that perhaps, maybe only Andy in a different state really has to deal with?
I mean, certainly the wind is number one challenge for me. That the year I grew a 1729, I also had opened up a little backyard patch to grow. I bought a silly little Amazon cold frame. I staked it down. I was like, maybe these stakes will hold together. And then we had a super high wind day. So I called Stacy when I was at work and I was like, hey, can you check on the pumpkin patch in the backyard? And then she was like, yep, no problem. And then she didn't respond to me for like an hour because she knew I was going to be mad. But that thing blew over and my plants were completely destroyed. And then last year in our front yard patch, the seed I really wanted to grow ended up getting smashed by my grow light because the wind had shake things loose and had broke the duct tape and it fell on the plant. So wind is number one. And we moved somewhere that's even windier than we were before. I didn't think that the wind was going to be that substantial 6 miles north, but there's plenty of days I drive into town and I'm like, oh, it's not even blowing, and then get back out here and it's 30-mile-an-hour sustained winds. The other challenge is that we're super hot during the day and super cold at night. So it's going to be 100, 105 during the day. And then we're lucky if we stay above 50 at night. So we just have these crazy temperature swings, and it does slow things down. And then you'll have like a weird week where you get rain and your highs are in like 45 and your lows are in the low 40s. And then all of a sudden your growth completely stops for a couple of days. And you're like, I don't know if this thing's going to start growing again. So I think those are a couple of the unique challenges that we have in Colorado.
Yeah,
I mean, you can attest to that. I mean, you deal with the same just an hour south.
I mean, we had I was in Las Vegas. I was trying to come home from Las Vegas Sunday, and it was winter storm warning. My plane was 4 hours late, and today I'm looking out a window. It's almost 70 degrees and snow everywhere. That's rapidly melting off, and more snow on the way. So it's bipolar to say the least. Our weather is a challenge.
It is a challenge.
So why the greenhouse then? That's a good topic on why the greenhouse? Why shell out the cheddar?
I mean, I obviously wouldn't build the greenhouse if I didn't think that it was providing some sort of advantage. I mean, there are some downsides to the greenhouse. I built one last year and I just didn't have the airflow in it. And I had powdery mildew that showed up in June. I was like, hey, I sent this off to probably you, Jason, Andy, several other growers. I was like, does this look like powdery mildew? They're like, kinda, but it's really early. And then I was like, I'll just let it go for a week. And then I was like, oh crap, that's totally powdery mildew. I better get a handle on this. But so there's the downsides, but the advantages is that I'm not going to have to deal with the wind. I'm not going to have to worry about that plant barrel rolling on me. I'm not going to have to worry about how strong I build this 4x6 structure to keep them warm at night in the early season. I mean, and then just the humidity as well. I mean, we have a complete lack of humidity in Colorado. So if I can control that humidity, have a little bit more in the greenhouse, I feel like that's some extra pounds that we're going to pack on.
Absolutely. For sure.
I mean, why did you build your greenhouse? I mean, any other things I missed out on?
That's pretty much all of them. It's the greenhouse. Greenhouse allows us to mitigate more extenuating circumstances. It helps with wind protection. It helps with insect protection. It helps with temperature buffering. It helps with, all of these things. But with every yin, like Brad said, there's a yang. So greenhouse growing is definitely not for everybody. One thing that you forgot to mention too is hail. We are famous for hail, multiple times during spring, summer, sometimes fallish, but mostly just kind of in the spring, summertime. Having a greenhouse can protect you to a point. Those little pea-sized hails that turn your plants into Swiss cheese. The plastic can buffer those, but when you start getting bigger than that, then knock on wood, really I haven't had that problem so much yet. But it's not an if it's going to happen. It's a when it's going to happen. You get that gnarly hail that'll even just shred the greenhouse. So I'm not looking forward to that storm.
Yeah. Speaking of which, it hailed 2 days ago, right before it snowed.
Yeah.
Thunderstorm rolls through. It hails for a good 10 minutes, and then 20 minutes later, it's snowing. So
good times. It's always something in Colorado. I love to chuckle when people say, well, it rained a lot or it was really hot. Well, it was 90 degrees and then your temperature was 75. Like, ooh, you with your unideal climate conditions must be nice. That's a far cry from what we have to deal with every day. So the greenhouses just help mitigate that.
One of our advantages is that we don't have squash vine borer here. But
no,
we have squash bugs, and that took down one of my plants last year. And I thought I was doing everything right with the insecticide program. And that's also, like you said, we're the greenhouse should help protect that a little bit from.
I would argue that stink bugs, which we do have, are perhaps even worse than squash vine borers. Squash vine borers are able to see, that if you're very, on top of it, you could see the affected area where that maggot is inside of your plant and you can remove it. You could also treat your plant with systemic insecticides that as soon as the worm is inside the plant, it dies. With squash vine or with cucumber stink bugs, rather, all they have to do is bite your plant and it could get yellow vine disease and it's just game over. The bug will be dead, but the damage has already been done. So I think stink bugs to a point are even worse than squash vine borers.
I agree. That's exactly what took it down last year. And we got yellow vine disease. So,
and there's no coming back from that. Period. You could chop off half your plant that has, the squash vine borer in it. You can't do that with yellow vine disease. Once it's there, it's game over. Jason wants to know, what do you think about molasses?
So I've been doing a little research on this lately. I've fed molasses the last couple of years kind of intermittently. I don't have a super regimented plan. It's kind of like one day biologicals, one day chemicals, and kind of just throwing some other things out there occasionally. But basically, from my understanding, is that molasses can be a detriment to your biologicals in the soil. You'll have a huge population spike in your soil, and they'll feed on that molasses until the molasses is basically gone, and then they die. So I think there's better things to throw at your pumpkin or your soil to get growth, like humic and fulvic acid, or just throwing exactly what you need at it based on soil and tissue tests.
Gotcha. Let's see. Andy's getting fancy here. What's the best way to change all that stuff? I'm trying to multitask and not doing good. Answer Andy's question.
I have, dude, those are too fancy of words for a firefighter, so I'm not entirely sure what he's asking. So I don't know, Andy.
Yeah, Andy, you're trying to be all fancy pants. We're simple people. We're not programmers with soft hands like you are, sir. What type of fertilizers and biologicals do you use?
So I've been using the Rocky Mountain BioAg, their quantum product and their mana product. And then this year we're going to try Continuum and Tribius from Impello. And then also doing Rootwise's Biological Complete program. And then once we have that pumpkin on board, I've kind of using a combination of a Plant Marvel product that's high in potassium, and then Harvest More Urea Mate, which is also just high in potassium, that has all the micros with it and boron and all of that stuff that we kind of cycle through. So like I said, I've typically been in the past doing like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday with biologicals, and then every other day doing some sort of like chemicals. But yeah, there's a ton of things that we throw at it, but I think those are the main ones.
Gotcha. Let's see. So this one was basically the same questions. What are you using for biologicals? Anything else other than what you just mentioned?
No, I think we've been using some like green amino as well, like early season, but that's not really a ton of biologicals. And then of course your bread and butters is the azos and the mycorrhiza that everybody else is using. But yeah, I'm excited by a few things that we're adding this year that I think can kind of take us to the next level. I was just looking at like Impello's product. They've got a Nero product that is a combination of azos and another biological that kind of has a synergistic effect. Echo.
There we go. I think I got it. How about now?
All right, I think we got you.
Without my computer's, just so everybody knows, my computer's dying, and I'm trying to salvage this by streaming from my phone. So hopefully this works. Worst come to worst, it'll kick us off for a minute. I'll restart it on my phone, so don't go anywhere. Sorry. So keep on going, Brad. Sorry.
No, all good. The other thing that we've been throwing down in the fall, we've been doing some dry mana, and I add that down with, and that's from Rocky Mountain Biological. We throw that down with our cover crop, just trying to have that stuff in the ground. This year's we added a whole bunch of stuff just because so heavy of clay. So I added 10 tons of sand, just 15 yards of compost, which isn't a ton, but we're just trying to have slow improvements without completely jacking things up, adding too much salt, what have you.
Gotcha. Adam Wolf. Hey, Adam. Adam sends me bubbles. Yeah, definitely sounds like the weather in Montana. I'm going to Chico, Prey, Montana in June, early June, for like a week. So I got to find a pumpkin sitter for that. But I'll be up in your neck of the woods. Snowing here with the sun. So it's 60 miles. Sorry, it's small on my phone. Yeah, so it's snowing 60 miles south of me where Jason is. And it's 70 degrees here. It was a beautiful day. I got lots done. I got to catch up to Brad.
Dude, I'm behind. I'm still building a greenhouse, so I mean, you've already tilled and added a whole bunch of, what did you add the other day? Mustard meal and some other stuff?
Mustard meal. I added a whole bunch of secret stuff.
Ooh, the secret stuff.
There's nothing secret. Let's see here. I turned off my screen, so I booted all my questions, trying to save battery. Let's see. I'm gonna try. Sorry, guys, this will be a little clumsy. There we go. Figuring it out. Have you ever tried dual-purpose fungal / pesticide spray, supposedly organic, available? Eyeballing it this year. Rach, just Rach. What product? What is that name? Do you know?
I've tried Pure One from Rocky Mountain BioAg before. Sorry, filling up my glass here. Need some liquid courage. Yeah, so I've tried, I think it's called Pure One. It's from Rocky Mountain BioAg. It's kind of an all-purpose fungicide and pesticide spray. Unfortunately, I'm not sure I overly believe in it, especially in the giant pumpkin world. Like, there's just things that we have to control and we have to make sure that it works. And I'm not sure with a dual-purpose product that we're getting enough, what we need to stop things. So, like with pesticides, I like to rotate with like imidacloprid, and then other things like 7, just to make sure that we have broad coverage on that. And then with my fungicides, because we really have to control like powdery mildew and downy, I want to make sure that we use stuff that really works. So unfortunately, it's like Eagle 20, which is super nasty stuff, and Rime, and then even mixing in some potassium bicarbonate, which they have a product out there that's called Millstop. So, yeah, I unfortunately hate to say that. I don't know if I believe in some of that stuff that's just all purpose. I'm just not sure it's strong enough for what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is have healthy pumpkins and grow super as big as we can. So I got to control it the best way I can. And sometimes it's the nasty products that, you probably wouldn't want to use elsewhere.
Now, this is probably a very important question. I'm going to ask this to everybody in the chat. When you say Eagle 20, in your mind, do you say Fox 2? Because I do every time. And my wife, whenever I say I'm going to go spray Eagle 20, she says Fox 2. Which is Aliens or Independence Day, if you're not catching that reference. Brad has a blank look on his face, so he must not.
Maybe not one of those movies I've overly watched. I'm sorry, Chad. I looked at my wife. Stacey, do you know that reference? Oh, she gets it. Like I said, she's a smart one.
Yeah. It's okay, Brad. It's okay. You're special. You're special to us. It's okay. Number 2.
Trying to change that this year, Chad.
Good luck, number 2.
I'm chasing you down.
Good luck. Okay. All these interviews are giving me some motivation. I'm famous for my procrastination and laziness. I'm very late. Well, I'm not lazy. I'm just very busy. So it kind of is a lazy grower, but it's motivated me a lot this year. So you better look out.
That motivation will last till June.
Yeah, pretty much. If you can, let me know and I'll send you the link. Oh, that was somebody else. Pumpkin Fanatic. So Andy wants to know, are you going to split some of the cost on Champion, Max, and Phosphite again? He's in.
Absolutely, Andy. I got you. Yeah, you and France can come down. We'll split that up because I'm not going to use as much as I have. So
everybody ask questions in the chat because all of my questions are on my computer, which is dead. Embarrassing. How many times a day do you plan to water this year? This is a good question, especially being in a new area. Do you have a plan for that?
So I think I'm going to continue with the plan that we've been doing the past couple of years, which is watering early morning and then kind of in the afternoon or the evening. So just 2 times. However, my soil is just a lot heavier clay than it was before. So I'm probably going to have to break down and get a good soil moisture meter and keep an eye on that because I don't want to waterlog this thing and run into those problems. But the plan is right now, 2 times a day. I'll probably keep that 2 times a day. If we have to cut back or add water, then we'll do that.
Gotcha. Jay says, drink up. That will make the secrets come out. That's very true. It's very true. Good advice, Jay. I don't know what this means. Follow the FRAC codes based off pathogen. Good luck, guys. Breakout year. Will you ever try AG colon clay spray?
Well, let's look that up because I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard of that, Just Rage. This is a great one. This was on my question list. Trenton Mason wants to know, how many plants are you growing this year and what seeds have you decided on?
So we're going to grow 3 in the greenhouse. I'm growing 2560 Ginger, 2287. Let's see, I have them here. 2287 Sadiq and the 2266 Kissamore.
Why those seeds, Brad?
So 2560 just seemed to grew some big giants last year. Number 3, number 4 in the world. I think it has potential to be a really good seed, maybe one of the best ever. I'm growing the 2287 Sadiq because of Andy. Andy grew a 2,000-pound pumpkin in Wyoming, where I think only tumbleweed should grow. So if he's able to grow a 2,000-pound pumpkin there, maybe that can translate to success down here in Colorado. And then 2266 is just a gut feeling. I feel like it's got the 2365 wolf genetics in it, and it might grow a pretty pumpkin for me, which I've never been able to do. I just grow ugly ones. And then
pumpkin guy.
Yeah, what Bubba always says, don't grow no ugly pumpkin. And
don't you grow no ugly pumpkin.
And then we're going to grow my girls said that they want to grow 1 pumpkin each. So I'm going to give them a small plot outside, and they're going to grow 1783 new and then Ruby. So we'll see what that translates to. I'm going to make them put in the work. I'll help them water and do stuff, but if they want to grow a big one, they're going to have to put in work. 3 is enough for me.
I'm going to laugh when your daughters grow a bigger one than you.
I'll be proud of them.
That's funny. I'm using my mouse pad. I'm like, why isn't it working on my phone? Yes, I had early dinner. I actually planned ahead. I was working out in the garden and the greenhouse, and I cut off early and I made dinner early. So I'm not doing a snack interview. Trenton is growing that 2287 as well. The Pumpkin Club, how much redundancy do you think there is between RMBA and Rootwise?
I mean, if you look, as long as it's not like, the problem is that Rocky Mountain BioAg is a proprietary blend. So I'm not entirely sure what bacillus or what is in there. And it's kind of just a different format as far as Rootwise is a powder. So it's probably more spore forming, whereas Rocky Mountains in theory is live product that you put in the ground that's ready to go. And that spore forming is going to take a little bit of time to get going. But I'm sure there is some redundancy between all of this, the biologicals. But one of the important things with biologicals, because I'm still on city water, is chlorine kills your biology. So I've got to fill up a big 250 gallon tote, let that try to air off. I use a filter to kill the chloramines and the chlorine before we get out there. And then the other thing is that if you're using it in the daylight, in the UV rays, that's also going to kill your biology. So I think it's important to like look at each one, because Rocky Mountain Bioag is saying that UV rays is not going to affect them. But if you talk to Rootwise is like 100%. If you're going to spray or put that down, you should do it in the evening hours or before the sun's up. So, but sorry, I kind of went off topic there.
Interesting fucking thing again. So sorry. Adam wants to know, how many square foot are your plants typically grown?
So last year I had 2 patches. I had about 500 square foot in the backyard, and then the 300 square foot patch in the front yard. This year we've got 3,200 square foot to mess with in the greenhouse. But of course, water tanks, walking boards, walking areas are going to take up space. One of the biggest issues I dealt with last year was when I put out that drip tape in the backyard, because I was trying to maximize space. I couldn't access everything. And sometimes that drip tape, I have them blow off, and I had no way of knowing last year if everything was operating according to plan. So with the new greenhouse, I want to make sure that I can walk along the sides and I can see the start of the drip tape and the end of the drip tape, just to know. Because one time I was watering last year and I was like, oh, that took like 5 minutes. It usually takes 15 minutes. And then I had to climb into the patch, and then I found like 3 leaking hoses, and I was like, this is not good.
I'm a big fan of Jacob Morenzer's, but when I see his greenhouse and he has it just like to the max, it sets my OCD off, because I've done that myself, where you just don't know what's going on. It's so thick that there's no way to just kind of wander around, look at the plant, assess the situation. So I think that's a wise plan to be able to access your plant. Then again, Jacob's grown 2,000 pound pumpkins and we haven't. So maybe he's onto something.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just have to have control, right? And I lost some of that control last year with trying to maximize space. Now that we have enough space, I mean, we can eat a little of that way up so I can know that things are working properly.
So tell us about your watering system for the greenhouse. Are you going to do overhead? Are you going to do any sort of mist? Are you just going to be a drip tape man? Are you going to water with a hose? What's the plan?
Yeah, the plan is to primarily water and fertilize through the drip tape. I used your contact, Columbus Irrigation, super old school.
Dan's the man.
Dude, so awesome. I mean, old school customer service just really takes care of you. So if you need somebody, I'm not sponsored by him by any means, but like, this guy's awesome. He'll go above and beyond for whatever your needs are. But yeah, I'm going to do drip tape for all of the watering. We've got that whole planned out, but a way to keep the greenhouse cool is misters. So this year I'm trying something out a little bit different, but they're basically micro sprinklers that have 20-foot radius. So I just put that in the greenhouse. So we've got two zones that we can do the misters, which will go off probably every 15 minutes for 30 seconds, trying to keep that cooler, trying to keep the humidity levels up. And then just kind of breaking that down. I do have that big tote that I fill up with water, and then I pH that water into another tank, and then I add my fertilizers into that. And then one other thing that we're doing this year is I've got an automatic pH adjuster from Growy that just has your pH sensor in the water, and it knows where you want it. So if I want it at 6.5, it's going to take that product and automatically add it into my tank until it's 6.5, and then I don't have to worry about it. So that's one less thing. That there's so much that goes into pumpkins, as we all know, but I want to try to be a little bit more automated so I can have a little bit more time to do other things, whether that's vine bearing or go out with the kids. So, I mean, that's I think that's a huge step of not having to pull out my pH meter every time and try to get that to a 6.5 before we water.
Yeah, for sure. I'm right there with you. Anything you can do to automate leaves more free time for the family and whatever else you want to do. You get kind of sick of looking at the pumpkin plant after a while.
It's true. You're like, all right, I got to wake up at 4 instead of 5:30 to go to work so I can water. It's like, all right, if we can kind of throw that on a system, and I can do that the night before, and I can hit it with a smart switch and then get that thing watered, and I can wake up at normal time and not be exhausted. So,
right. Let's see here. Just Rach. A brand is surrounded by cool and clay crop protectant. It is sprayed, forms a barrier film, which acts as a broad spectrum agricultural crop protectant against pests and diseases.
Sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, but anything crunchy granola, I'm always just super suspicious of. I mean, yes, you want it to work, but when you're doing like what Brad and I and anybody else who grows a giant pumpkin, you don't have multiple chances. So if it doesn't work, it's not like on a field of corn where it's a 10-acre field and you can afford to write off an acre. We got 3 plants, and if one of them craps the bed, then it's game over for a third of what we're growing. So, but there is a lot more as of late, especially the conversations that we've been having. Perhaps the no-till, better biologicals, more organic way. Perhaps that is the way. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Brad?
I mean, I think you did hit the nail on the head. We only have so many opportunities to grow these things, and one mistake can be disaster. So I have to go with what I know, but I'll let somebody else try it out. And if they're a huge fan, then I'm in for the next year.
Yeah. Andrew wants to know, do you hoist pumpkins out with a fire truck ladder?
That's funny. No, but last year, because the department I work for is always looking for good PR. Unfortunately, sometimes first responders find themselves in the news for the wrong reasons. So my department that I work for loves to pimp out the pumpkins in a good publicity kind of way. And they kind of wanted to do like a pumpkin chucking thing where they would take up a pumpkin and drop it from the ladder. But my pumpkin was spoken for. So I was like, hey, you can do that with smaller pumpkins, but not my pumpkin. So, cause I got to sell that and make a little money back and try to put that in my new patch.
Gotcha. Well, let's see. Oh, God, the mouse again. Just a habit. Rach. Have you noticed a difference between fulvic and humic acid? Preference of one or both?
I think that in combination with each other, they work better. From all the research that I've done, it seems like the combination of the two just work better for helping out your patch, making nutrients better available for your waterings and whatnot. And then I use it a little bit too, is just lowering the pH, because I don't know about you, Chad, but my pH here is, and when I was living in Fort Collins, it was almost 9.0 for the watering. And then it's 8.0 here where I'm at now. So I kind of use that as lowering the pH a little bit, but it's not for that purpose. But yeah, combination of the both is really what I prefer.
Gotcha.
What about you, Chad? Have you used humic and fulvic?
Oh yeah, I use the humic fulvic. I use them both. I use the Nature or Neptune's Harvest product, as well as Ron Wallace's stuff. I use it pretty much every time I water. I add a little pinch. I'm a kind of a pinch, a smidge, a dash kind of guy. A pinch of this and a glug of that. So I pretty much always add a pinch of one of the two whenever I water. Trenton, I already know you touched on this. You mentioned your insecticide program. What product do you use, and how often are you treating your patch?
So I like to start introducing imidacloprid as soon as I plant, just because I know that's going to add protection immediately, systemically. And then once we wrap up into like June, then that's when I'm going to start doing like imidacloprid every 2 to 3 weeks. And then every other week, we're going to be doing like 7 or a few other products. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but just more of a contact base in case like, we're missing something that the imidacloprid's not hitting. What about you, Chad, on that one? What do you use on your insecticide program?
I'm horrible at remembering stuff. I use Talstar, which I don't know the active ingredient is, and I use 7, and I use Merit. Those are pretty much the three that I use, and then I will use I forget what it is, but something kind of specific for aphids. Like in July, I want to start being aware of and concerned about aphids. One thing you will want to, never mind, I won't tell you about that, Brad. You'll find out on your own.
Are we talking about spider mites? Because
spider mites.
I had those the year of the 1729. So yeah, and I haven't really found a product that's super effective against them. So working on that.
There isn't. It's unfortunately, they are a scourge upon this earth. I do have a mite aside that one of the grow stores here in town recommended to me. They were trying to sell me some neem oil or some crap that is also functions as hippie deodorant, and I said, I don't want anything like that. I want the stuff that you need the mask and a hazmat suit for. That's what I need. And they pulled out a little jug of, it was about that big. I'm like, how much is that? And they're like, it's $100. I'm like, that's what I need. So I forget what it was called. I've got it out in the garage. I'll if you remind me, if you text me, I'll send you a picture of it. But they said that's the stuff.
Sounds good.
Van, I'm on city water, but what are any potential problems using water from my 3/4 acre pond? Can I treat the pond water with something, maybe filter it?
I mean, I can't really answer this question super definitively because I've always been on city water. So, I mean, when I used to work at a nursery, a tree farm, and we did have like a giant filter to try to deal with pond water. Because there's some things that you can get from pond water that you can have like more disease is my understanding. But I'm kind of surface level on this question because I really can't answer your question definitively. I'm not sure if you know anything on that, Chad, but
yeah, it's said that pond water has more diseases in it, especially being kind of ponds are stagnant-ish. So by watering that in, you could potentially be spraying diseases onto your patch. I think if I had to choose between city water and pond water, I would choose city water. 100%. The downside to city water is simply that you have chlorine or chloramine in your water that you can just mitigate with either chlorine and chloramine eliminating chemicals like aquarium dechlorinators, or just let it sit out overnight, and that chemical will gas off. So I think you're better, Van, just getting like a big IBC tote. Those are, what do they come in, Brad? Like 250 and 300 gallons or something like that?
Yeah, you can always find them on Facebook Marketplace, but yeah, I think it's 250 and 300 gallons, and you can find a food grade container and fill that up with city water, and that's going to take care of if it's chlorine. The thing is, if you have chloramines, that doesn't break down or off gas as fast, so you're just going to need just like a 98% carbon filter that hooks to your spigot. And then I think Ron Walls touched base on it, but I think he waters from his pond, and he does like reverse osmosis. So if that's an option for you.
Yeah, reverse osmosis. Ron's big on that this year, starting with basically naked water. So if you don't know, reverse osmosis just takes everything out of your water. So you will have basically, let's say, for every 10 gallons of regular water, you then filter it out to perhaps, I don't know, 2 gallons of reverse osmosis water. So you waste a huge amount of water to get that naked water. But once you have naked water, then you're able to just add whatever you want into it. So it's potentially, not even potentially, it's a great advantage to know exactly what you're putting on your plant as far as fertilizers and minerals and elements and all that good stuff, because you're starting with water that's just zero across the board. So that's what Ron's goal is with that. Doug, do you water by hand or automate the watering?
Well, so because I do the drip tape, so I use a submersible pump to hook up to my drip tape. Yeah, I don't have that time to water by hand with 2 little kids. I should try to come up with a way to be better automated. I just haven't found a way to do that without losing some of that control yet.
Gotcha. Let's see here. How do you manage, Gabe wants to know, how do you manage drip line and bearing vines? What direction do you run the lines in correlation to the plant? Are you a parallel or are you a staggered?
So I run them just parallel to or perpendicular to the plant. So I run with my secondaries. So I don't have anything running with the main vine. I basically have them every foot apart, running with the secondaries. And then I don't have any problem with bearing over on top of the drip tape. I can't really see if it's running once there's a plant there anyways to know if anything's clogged. So I just bury the root where it is, or your vines right where that leaf node is, bury that, and then just hope for the best. And I try to water over the top just because I'm not getting a whole bunch of water in the greenhouse, or in Colorado in general. You're not getting a ton of overhead. Do you do the same, Chad? Do you run kind of with your secondaries, or do you run with your main vine?
I run with my secondaries because I do it just because if there is an issue, if we do blow a line or something, it's not it's easier to shut off that line if I need to, because I'm going one vine. Whereas if I have 2 lines parallel to the main vine or something and I have to shut that off, I don't want to crawl in the plant, then I'm killing something that runs the length of the plant long ways versus sideways. So I would rather mitigate any potential issues by going that direction versus long ways.
What do you do with your, do you water in? Like when you do your vine bearing, do you mount it, or do you completely bury that vine?
I mount it. I just go over the middle.
Do you water in over the top, or how do you keep that kind of that moisture level in there?
I let whatever's going to happen.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I bury it, and it's left to its own vine. I give it a salute, and wish it good luck. Maybe my mist potentially could keep it watered, and maybe once a week I'll get out the hose and I hand water, but it's not something that I put forth obvious effort into keeping my nodes moist,
Fair enough.
which is a statement only makes sense in this conversation right here. This next question is, what are you going to do nice for your wife this year since she lets you grow giant pumpkins?
Oof. That is a great question. So when I grew my 1729, we took the award or the winnings from that and we went to Mexico. So if we grow 3 and we win 1, I think we got to go back to Mexico.
All right.
Pro tip. Sayulita is my favorite place in Mexico, hands down. I'm not a big city guy, but if you've ever been to Sayulita, man, it's a cool, small little town. Busy, but small little town.
Good to know. Hopefully she was here to hear that promise.
Nope. Okay. No background noise on that one. She's officially tuned me out.
Oh, gotcha. She's tuned into some screen time. She's watching a murder makeup mystery or something.
Exactly.
Trenton said, "I'm in Utah, and the soil and water is alkaline. What are your pH levels, and do you have to treat your patch? If so, what is your regimen to optimize your pH?"
So before we even moved into the new house, when we did the inspection, I went out back, kind of knowing where I wanted to put a greenhouse. I got a soil test. The soil test came back and my pH is 8.9. So not ideal. I added about 130 pounds of elemental sulfur. So, and then I just got my soil test back today for the spring. We're down to 8.0. So we're still a little high. I'll probably add a little bit more elemental sulfur down to try to get that closer to 7 if we can. I'm not expecting big things on changes this year. I still want to grow a huge pumpkin, but I also know that there's challenges with my soil. Challenges knowing that super heavy clay, super high pH. Naturally, I'm sitting at 7,000 ppms on calcium. So again, not ideal. I mean, I would rather be adding stuff than wanting to take away. The rest of the patch is looking fairly balanced. There's a few little concerns, but minor. And then, like I said earlier, with the pH of the water, it's super high out here too. So nice and alkaline. So I do pH that water to try to get it like 6.5 every feeding. And with that growy product that I'm going to put in, hopefully we should be at 6.5 every feeding, and I don't have to kind of guesstimate, because I don't know about you, Chad, but I try to get it to 6.5, but then there's sometimes where you're like, all right, I kind of added this much this time. Let's just send it and let's move on to our next watering and treatment, because I'm running out of time. I've got to put the kids to bed, or I've got to go to work, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. Yeah, that falls in the good enough category for sure. For sure. Let's see. Jason, my mouse doesn't work. Please please like and subscribe, everyone. Brad, do you have any social medias that you want to plug whilst we're on the subject?
Yeah. So I haven't really done anything on Facebook, but on Instagram and TikTok, I'm the Gourd Father. That is not something I came up with. I work at a firehouse, so we thrive on giving each other shit. So one day I went to the TRT house, which is Technical Rescue Team, and they were like, "Oh, it's the Pumpkin King," and I was like, "No, we're not going to call me the Pumpkin King. That's kind of overdone." And they're like, "What about the Gourd Father?" And I was like, "Dude, that's actually kind of a good nickname. Yeah, I'll throw that on my social media right now. I kind of like it." So yeah, the Gourd Father on Instagram and TikTok. And Chad, I've got some seeds to give away too if we want to do numbers.
Yeah, sure. So we've had at most we're at 75. So let's do 1 through 100. So if you don't know, you have to. Jason will be able to post this because on my phone I cannot. But you'll have to pick a number between 1 and 100. We will do a random number generator, which will be me just coming up with numbers because computer's dead. So we're just going to pick 3 numbers, and Brad will give away what tonight, Brad?
So I've got seeds from my 1729. That was everybody who grew it was fairly local last year, but a couple over 1,000 pounds. They all went heavy. So if they go heavy in Colorado, they might go super heavy somewhere else. Then I've got my 1461 that I grew last year and crossed with the 2365 Wolf. So I have maybe less than 10 seeds on that one. Just didn't produce a ton, but I do have some viable seeds that I can give away there. And then I do have a bunch of seeds from my state record sunflower as well.
Awesome. So are you saying we'll do 3 lots of 1 each?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay, so everybody comment, pick a number between 1 and 100. Jason will post, and Jason, you should have the privileges to pin on that note. Pin your email to the top of the screen. It's Hazmat Rider. Actually, no, you might have gotten a new email. I think it was a new pumpkin email. So look for Jason's email. At the end, we'll pick numbers. If you win, you have to send Jason an email. We're not going to chase you down and beg you to take these awesome free seeds. Yeah. So do that. And while you're at it, subscribe to Brad's Insta, or like his Instagram. I don't know what you do on Twitter. I'm not cool enough for Twitter.
Oh, it's TikTok, not Twitter.
TikTok. I'm not cool enough for that either. Do you follow, or do you like, or you subscribe?
Follow.
So follow on the TikTok, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We're almost at 2,100 subscribers, so I'm going to quit my day job at any moment now and just do this full time. I'm going to be rich. Not really. So actually, I want to talk to you about the Growy. Is that the thing that you sent me a picture of? It's our link of at some point. The automatic adjuster.
I might have sent that to you. Yeah, it was just something that I was kind of trying to Google, and there's a ton of like. Can you wave? This is Poppy. Wave. Say hi. Say hi. She's shy. But yeah, there's a ton of like fertigation system out there, but they're like way more advanced than I would ever know how to set up or even how to use. But this Growy system seems to set up. They have like, it's kind of like a dosatron or just an automatic pH adjuster. I do need to ask some more questions as far as like what product I can use with that. If it's just like pH down, because kind of one of the downsides of pH down is that it's phosphoric acid, which adds to your phosphorus levels. And if people are higher in phosphorus, you're not going to want to add more of that to it. But you can do things like citric acid to lower your pH, or you can do sulfuric acid. I'm not sure I can use sulfuric acid with this system just because of like plastic lines and worrying about that stuff. So I probably do need to make a phone call to the manufacturer and find out some more stuff there. But I do have a ton of citric acid, which is fairly cheap and really benign, and is going to lower your pH level to where it's a manageable level.
I looked at that. I'm really interested in that product too. Again, for the sake of automation, it's basically in the aquarium industry, it's just an automatic doser. So it's an automatic doser with a probe that just dictates what your endpoint is. So it's a very common thing, but it's cool that they have something that's kind of crossover for the agricultural or the the hydroponic industry is kind of what that's geared toward. Looking at it, but I might get one of those too. They weren't too expensive. They were a few $100. Yeah,
and I want to say their website was like getgrowy.com. So just grow with 2 E's at the end. So it's just something that I had Googled, and I was like, man, this could fit the bill as far as just making things more automated and easier.
Jason wants to know which one of you is the biggest sandbagger. That's
Chad.
Easy. That's easy. That's Brad.
Are you a sandbagger, Chad?
I don't care.
You don't care?
I'll tell everybody what I got. I usually do. I tell everybody up until like, I don't know, like a week or two. I do a weekly weigh-in on the YouTube channel.
I think I asked you a couple of years ago, and you were pretty nondescript.
Should watch the YouTube channel. That's how I say every week.
Yeah, until you hit September, which is fair.
I usually tell everybody it's only if the dead giveaways. If I don't say it, then I got something good. If it's nothing, then I don't care. Or perhaps I should do it irregardless. That way, everybody will be concerned.
I think you knew when I had the 1783. You were probably you knew fairly close to what I had. So I'm not saying that at all. I mean, I would like to. I mean, I got to grow something bigger to be able to be a sandbagger, but I haven't had anything crazy yet.
It's fun. It's interesting, asking that question to everybody. It's interesting to hear those answers. Some people it sounds like it's mildly offensive to them, whereas other people it's just fun. It's part of the I don't know, the camaraderie, the ball busting. I like busting your balls. It's part of it. And if you're friends with whomever you are, doing that with, then it's all good. But perhaps there's some people I could see them getting a little sour at that. Adam says, there we go. How do you say that, Brad? Bithrin?
Bithrin? Yeah. Sure. Which I think that's basically your product, your merit that you're using. So, and that's what I use too is merit, which I think is your breakdown right there. So for insecticides,
that confused for the first few years. If you're really new, and even still, it confused me that if you use like I don't know, we'll say Talstar, the active ingredient in Talstar, I forget what it is right now. It might be the Bifrin, but if its name, it's not necessarily, the name is not what you're looking for. You're looking for the active ingredient that's inside of the trade name. So you have to not necessarily get to know products like Talstar or Eagle 20 or whatever the common name is. You should be reading the active ingredient in them and get to know the products based on that active ingredient. That's something that I'm still trying to learn myself. I just got to pay attention more. B&S Giant Pumpkins, ever try vitamin C powder or dechlorinate your water? Ever try vitamin C powder, to dechlorinate your water?
No,
I didn't know that worked.
I haven't done that. Basically, I've used the filter, and then I have basically a dechlorinator as well. But the problem with the dechlorinator is it's basically salt, and I'm not sure. I mean, we add so much fertilizer and product that I'm not sure I really want to add much more salt. But I've got to look into this vitamin C powder. This might be a game changer for me, especially being on city water.
You can also use, being in the pet industry that I'm in, there's a company called Seachem. Seachem has multiple lines, like Prime is a good one. So if you Google Seachem Prime, that is a dechlorinator, and it'll take out the chlorine and the chloramines as well. They have a product that's escaping me at the moment, but it's dechlorinator in addition to a pH buffer. And I think the buffer takes it to 6.7. So you can have one product that will dechlorinate and buffer your pH to a pretty acceptable level in one powder. So check out Seachem if you want to add things, or vitamins. I've never heard
that was a great tip right there, Chad. I'm gonna have to look at that. Don't give it.
What things are you testing out this year that you haven't done before? Trenton, you're asking some great questions. You're picking up my slack. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've added a couple biologicals that we haven't done before. So that's part of it. Impello has a bunch of different stuff. One of the things I'm like most excited to try is their Dune product, which is basically your monosylic acid. A bunch of people add potassium silica, but potassium silica technically isn't available to your plant when you add it. It takes a little bit of time for it to break down in your soil for your plant to use that to get those benefits of getting thicker walls and being a little bit more like not drought tolerant, but heat tolerant. So that's one of those that I'm super excited about is Dune from Impello because it's a monosylic acid. So basically when you add it to your pumpkin, that's going to be direct improvements that day. One of the other things that I've am going to try this year is hold on, Poppy. Oh shoot, I just lost it. There's basically a fermented product. It's like I can't remember what it is exactly. Let me try to think of it, but it basically helps with heat tolerance. You spray it on your plant once a week. It's going to help basically your flagging that you have on your plant. And I don't know about where everybody else grows, but in Colorado, our heat and our lack of humidity, we get a ton of flagging. So let me look up that plant or that product real quick, and I will let you know exactly what it is. I probably had too much whiskey at this point.
And it doesn't help that we're, basically a mile high in elevation. So we are a lot closer to the sun than most people. And if you don't think it's a thing, like I didn't think it was a thing. And then a few years into being here, like I never got sunburned. But then as I started to thin up on top there, I burned the crap out of my head. And I'm like, oh crap, we are close to the sun. It's not a thing.
All right. So thanks for filling in the gap there. But it's basically fermented castor bean oil. Is the product that I'm looking forward to trying, spraying it once a week. And that's supposed to help with like flagging and also supposed to help with photosynthesis.
Interesting. And what's it? It's castor bean oil?
Castor bean oil. You can get it from buildasoil.com.
Interesting. Casey wants to know, I grew a hydro pumpkin. It burst.
Oh,
maybe
no.
too much of a good thing. Well, you got to dial it back next year. They say if you're not growing them, if you're not blowing them, you're not growing them. So you're flirting with that edge. That's where you want to be.
Have you ever blown one, Chad?
One. Yeah, one.
Was that last year? Or was that kind of more of it just went bad on you?
Last year it just went bad. Last year I got the lazies and I think I came back from vacation or something. Because unlike a lot of people, I have no problem. I'll travel during summertime. I've got like 3 or 4 trips lined up. And I came back in and you had that like, uh-oh. But no. I had one split on me. It was just a weird shape. And it wasn't anything impressive. Jesus is God says, so you put pots over the mound. So there might be some side conversation going, but I'm assuming you're talking about like the Peyton method where they put the pots over the nodes. That's a good way to do it for sure because they are, they're champion growers. Yes, you're right, Trenton. It does take a few years for your soil pH to adjust. Sulfur takes probably 2 or 3 years to break down. So Brad won't have good soil pH for probably another 3 years.
Easy. We have higher expectations of that, but yeah, I mean, we had almost one pH adjustment just from the fall. But from my understanding is it typically is not super effective at working when soil temperatures are below 55. So whether or not I should add some more this spring is a good question.
50 pounds. How big was Tour biggest? How big was your biggest in the smallest patch you grew it? That,
I think
yes.
that's what it is. So 1729 in 325 square feet in my front yard. So I do think that's a testament to that. You don't have to have acreage or a huge farm to do this. If you want to grow a giant pumpkin and you live in the city and you make a little bit of space for it and do all the right stuff, you can definitely grow a big one. I mean, I'm not the smartest dude in the world. I'm a firefighter. So, I mean, if I can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely. And that's, our next conversation next week, it was with Brian Turner, I believe. He's another relatively new grower who's growing at a high level. So that's like, we want to get a few people on before the start of the season to just, throw out that information there, that you don't have to be a farmer. Brad doesn't have overalls on with no shirt and a piece of straw, unless it's for like the firefighter calendar. He's just a normal dude with a normal job. And when he grew an almost state record, beat only by me, number 2, it's just because he's paying attention to the details, and you're doing the little things right, which anybody can do if you put forth effort. So if you just put forth a little bit of effort, you can be second best, just like Brad.
I mean, I can kind of attest to that. Like, I don't think there's necessarily any secrets to growing giant pumpkins, but there's a ton of little things that go into it. Soil test, vine management, good plant health, adding the right stuff at the right time. And it's just effort. So if you put effort into it, you're going to have results.
Absolutely. I think that is one of the number one tips there. What takes you from kind of an entry level grower to a serious grower is not, all the bells and whistles and things and stuff and all, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, with our conversation with Andy Wolf last week, Andy has, a Venturi siphon fertilizer and doesn't have any sort of fancy technology, but he has the most popular seed on the planet, has grown giant pumpkins for 25 years. And his secret to success is hard work and details. So that's something that everybody is capable of. Just like Brad, but not as good as me.
I'm coming this year. I'm telling you.
Oh, I look.
I don't have time to grow anything else, but pumpkins are on the agenda. So
then you can talk smack with me all the time. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's a good one. Just raced. Yes, I had an auto doser on my koi pond when I was rich. I want to be rich. Chad seeds and koi casualties of the move. I don't know what this is. BT Thunderside? Thunderside?
No experience there either. I don't know about you, Chad.
Not me. I don't even know what that is. Sounds fancy. Chloramines break down into ammonia as well. That is very true. So Jason is posting that here. Jason, I think you can click the pin post in the chat. So the 3 dots beside it, if you click that, you should be able to pin that email. It's all gone wrong. There we go. I'm back.
One other thing I wanted to touch base with, it's not necessarily a question, but last year I had a little bit of issue with, I think, phytotoxic burn. So when adding biologicals, it's probably fairly important, unless you're doing like DPH, which it's Douglas Plant Health. They kind of say that you can add all of those biologicals at the same time with your fertilizer. But with a lot of other biologicals, depending on what you're doing, if you add fertilizer within 24 hours, because it makes the plant that much more effective of taking up those nutrients, you can get phytotoxic burn, which I'm pretty sure I dealt with last year. I had some burn on my plant like maybe July, August. And when I harvested in Sorry, my wife is watering her little baby plants back there.
Can't see me.
Oh, she moved. She's fast. But yeah, basically I had no plant left in September. So just sometimes when you're trying to be a mad scientist and add a whole bunch of different stuff and pushing your plants to the limit, know that things can go wrong.
Push it to the limit. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Rach, you're asking some great questions too. I appreciate that. So where do big pumpkins go? Do garden centers, etc., ever pay to display your huge growth? I hear cha-ching with all the growth product cost recoups. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the end of the season. I'm looking to try to sell my pumpkin. Last year I was able to sell it to a pumpkin patch, which they advertised as, come see this giant pumpkin, blah, blah, blah. And then they gave it back to me. I harvest the seeds. And then once I harvest the seeds, I send it over to CSU and feed their bison with it. So what about you, Chad? Do you sell your pumpkins?
As frequently as possible. I typically sell mine to there's like a block party that I've sold one to the last several years. Garden centers, yeah, whomever wants a giant pumpkin, I will sell.
Yeah, I try to take that money and reinvest it right back into the patch. I mean, this is a hobby for me that's fun and enjoyable. And I mean, I don't know if I know I'm not close to breaking even, but I just try to take that money and try to break even. I'm probably not close. I don't keep track of it because ignorance is bliss.
That's true. That's true. Especially when you hide that prize money that you were telling me about from your wife, that it's just not cool.
She was just in the room. That's not okay.
Yeah, no, I do the same. I try to, whenever I can sell my pumpkin, it's just to lose less money. There's some people, I mean, do you remember what was Travis's prize for the world record? It was a 10
30,000, I think. I think 20,000 was the winner, and then 10,000 additional for a world record, right?
Yeah. So 30 G's, baby. Cha-ching. That's one heck of a payday. And then I saw he set up a website where he's selling his seeds for like $300 a seed. And I know he's going to sell a crap ton of them. So if you're at like an elite level of pumpkin grower, there's never, I don't think there's anybody who's a professional grower that does it full time, like for income. But there's some people who probably make a decent chunk of change off of them, which then is just losing less money typically.
What do you think? Do you think we can ever be elite level here in Colorado?
I don't think so. I think we could be elite for what our conditions will allow us to grow, but I don't see Colorado growing like a 2,700 pounder. I think we have a handicap of, maybe, I don't know. I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 500 pounds, I think would be the Colorado handicap for our weather. If I'm throwing out some statistics, I think that's where our hands are tied a little bit.
I mean, I agree. I think kind of where our limit is like what's Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Idaho, that kind of general area that has similar weather as us. What can we do right now? That's 2287 from Sadiq. So, I mean, that should be possible here in Colorado.
Yeah, and I would love to be proven wrong, and I think ultimately it's like I know I could grow, like I know for a fact I could grow a 2,000-pound pumpkin. Like if I didn't get lazy and if I stayed on top of just a program and a regimen and really stuck to it, it's not, I'm not going to say it's not hard, but it's very achievable. It's very doable. It's something that I think you're going to do with the greenhouse this year on some virgin soil. I think you have a screaming chance at growing a 2,000-pound pumpkin, which then also motivates me. So I'm not good with holding the lead. I'm good from coming from behind. So I'm hoping you grow a 2,000-pounder this year, which then will kind of light a fire in a bunch of our butts to then catch up to you from there. But do I think we can grow a world record? I don't think so.
I think you're right, but we've got a ton of good growers here in the state, and so hopefully we can just keep motivating each other. I mean, Joe dominated for 10 years, and now he's now I think he's found the motivation to try to chase you down as well. So we're all chasing you, but we're gonna get there.
Oh, not a doubt in my mind. It's fun. It's fun to be the the fox versus the hare. So right now I'm the hare and I'm just trying to run, and you guys are chasing me down. You'll catch me. I have a phone thing on my phone. I have one of those little pop-it hooks, and it's hooked on my laptop, but it's just not very sturdy.
Should we do a GoFundMe for a phone stand or a USB cord?
I'll have the situation squared away by next week. Don't worry. It's somebody probably took my cord, or just borrowed it accidentally. It was reported he got that day $55,000. And the cool thing with Travis, so on that note of Travis, Travis his business is at home, so it's something that doesn't require him to babysit his work, so he can be working. The machines are doing the work, and meanwhile he's growing a giant pumpkin. And then he got whatever amount of money he got, and then he's going to be able to sell his seeds and get to go to Spain to Europe, wherever the big show was, and he's living his best pumpkin life right now. So he's pumpkin famous, which is pretty cool. Well, we see you. And she's gone.
She's got smacked in the back of the head too.
I don't think she had pants on, Brad. You might want to tell her to put pants on. What are some of your secrets, Brad, when it comes to like seed starting? So if we had some new growers here, talk to us about how you start your pumpkin seeds.
I mean, it's relatively simple. I lightly sand those sides. I do think that sanding the sides just helps that root get going quicker. So I do that, and then I do submerge those for between 2 to 6 hours in some sort of biological that I want to inoculate that seed with. Kind of what I'm planning on using for the rest of the year to give them that exposure. So if that translates to anybody who's using a biological, you don't have to use what I use. Just use what you're going to use the rest of the year. So put that in your water, soak that for 2 to 6 hours, and then I put that in a paper towel, and then I put that in a Ziploc baggie, and then I put that on a seed mat, which is just right back there. No pumpkins right now, but some Brussels sprouts. But I put that at 80 degrees, and then just wait for that root to show, and then I plop a little hole in my dirt, and then I take that off the heat, put a light on, and then hope for the best and plant 2 weeks later.
When are you planning on starting your seeds this year?
So I've kind of been going back and forth. So I've kind of been wanting to start my seeds April 10th with a planting date of April 24th, but I want to grow in a little bit bigger of a pot. So I think I might do April 7th and then plant them in a 2-gallon, and then plans on putting them into the ground the same day of April 24th. Now, that all depends on if I can get plastic up on the greenhouse, get our soil temperatures warmer, get the soil cables buried. I still don't have a rototiller at the moment. So, I mean, there's some things to figure out. When are you planting seeds?
April 7th or April 10th.
Dang. All right. April 6th it is.
yeah, I actually have it on my calendar on my phone. It changes. It kind of changes every year, and it's changed for me this year too, based on some of the conversations that I've had on this here podcast. I do think that there is such a thing, especially in Colorado, that you don't with the weather that we have. I think it's advantageous to start a little bit later, so your plant's a little bit more established, and try to maximize that weather window that we have of growth. If you wait until September, I forget who was talking about how they had like a 500-pound September. Like I don't really think that's possible for us in Colorado, just because of the weather that we get. I don't foresee that happening. You could have a 200 or 300-pound September, but 500 pounds, I don't think that's in the cards for us. So I think starting perhaps a little bit later and maximize having a healthier plant, a healthier, bigger plant through June, July, August is kind of what I aim for.
I agree with you, but I differentiate just slightly. I do think that having a big September in Colorado is just not in the cards. We just have way too cold of nights. I do think that if we start a little earlier, we're able to take advantage of our like June and July and our August. And that's a good, if you can get early pollination, early June, potentially that's 90 days of good success. I didn't really have a ton of growth on my 1461 like the last 30 days. Now, part of that was plant health. Part of that's just weather conditions. But I went 15% heavy, which isn't super, that's not super common in Colorado. A lot. If you look back, last year was historically a heavy year for Colorado. But if you look at the data, most pumpkins go light in Colorado. And I think that maybe there's a chance that having that pumpkin not necessarily gain size is gaining inside weight. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just my speculation. So I think if we can get an early June pollination, and then we just kind of sit idle in September and we don't lose a pumpkin, then maybe we're going to go heavy.
Yeah.
I don't know that for certain. It's just fingers
crossed. You need to grow on a scale. Grow on a scale and let us know.
Fair enough.
This is a funny question. Andrew wants to know who is joining the 2,000-pound club first. Me, obviously, Andrew. Come on now.
Just because you read that question doesn't mean you get to answer it first.
Oh, no, I answered the question. And moving on. No, if I'm being honest, I have my fingers crossed that Brad does it this year. Somebody in Colorado needs to do it, and I'm going to try to put maximum effort forward. But I have a lot of trips this summer planned, and that doesn't help. And Brad has no life whatsoever, and he'll be with his pumpkins, and I think he'll do it. Kidding, Brad.
Wow. Shots fired. Andrew, it might be you, man. I know you're in Colorado and growing in your backyard. Hey, it could be you too. So
that would be so cool if somebody just out of the blue, like not on our radar, just scoots in with a 2,000-pound pumpkin.
Dude, all the better. I think the more competition that we can have in our state, it just brings the level up for all of us.
And Joe, you can never sleep. Joe, the Biz, you can't sleep on the Biz.
And I think, Jason has had a couple years. I think his year was derailed by hail last year, and then the year before was bugs. Part of this hobby is just how many people you talk to and like shoot ideas off of, and I have a ton of great growers that I talk to constantly. And every time that I talk to Jason, like Jason knows all the information I do. And he's going to put it together. It could be him this year.
Oh yeah. Yeah. you're just a firefighter. Jason's just a construction worker. So, I mean,
and you're just a pet store owner.
I'm just a pet. I even work. I'm a construction worker too. So everybody we've interviewed is like, all programmers and very smart people like Nick. Nick was programmed something or other, and Andy's smart, and Jason more computer. Us people who are just work with our hands. We don't have those skills, those programming skills that apparently the pumpkins love.
Apparently, we need to have softer hands. Is what the diagnosis is.
I need some white. Look, I mean, my hands are just way too dirty. I need to moisturize. I need to go get a manicure or something. Maybe that's the secret. You get a manicure, and then boom, that's like 200 pounds. Rach just wants to know: does anybody do the no-till method? There's some people that do.
Yeah, I think Cindy was on a couple weeks ago, and she talked that she wants to do no-till. I'm not there yet, especially in the soil that I have that's super heavy and compacted. I'm trying to make that soil as light as possible, but maybe she has success and starts a new standard with pumpkins, but I'm not there. I want other people to be the groundbreaking, and I want to try to do traditional stuff that's tried and true and successful.
We're all very much monkey see, monkey do. So if somebody starts railing off 2,500 pounders consistently with no-till, then I can guarantee you 90% of people will then be no-till's the best. Cindy said she did 500 pounds in September. Not surprised. Eastern Washington, William does 4 to 500 in September. You lucky ducks. Travis told me Joe used to sandbag and drive his pumpkins back east. Joe is the king sandbagger.
Dude, that doesn't surprise me. Him and his like giant banana hands that used to be a dentist. Like, I know you've talked about this before, but like, dude, I'm not picking Joe as a dentist. Like, those hands aren't going into my mouth.
No, like this screwdriver, is probably like, here's a screwdriver and here's like my pinky finger. And that's probably like Joe's pinky finger. So if he's like open wide, like that doesn't work out.
Yeah. Like he like shakes my hand and it wraps around my whole hand. I'm like, all right, I'm intimidated. Okay.
Yeah. You have a baseball glove for a hand. We get it, Joe. You're awesome. No, Joe is, for those who don't know, we're talking about Joe Sherber. He's one of the founding members of the GPC. I think he was like the first treasurer, and he's just been doing it ever since it was invented. And he's here in Colorado, and he's still one of the top dogs when it comes to growing giant pumpkins. And his seed knowledge is the best that I know of. He has like I don't know, like an encyclopedia in his brain of seed genetics. It's very impressive. What else do we
always
got?
growing the best seeds too. I mean, I drove down to his place last year to get a 2365 Wolf to cross mine. Nice. And the year before I drove down to your place to get an awesome, what was it? I don't remember which cross it was, but it was your best plan of the batch. So
yeah, it should be a good year. I'm looking forward to this year. I'm ahead from where I usually am. You got your new greenhouse. Jason's getting things dialed in. Seems like we have a handful of new growers. I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to this year.
Me too.
Casey asks, is Wolf still king? Yeah, 2365 Wolf. If you have one of those, it's like having $1,000 bill. It's still the hot seed this year for sure. But with that being said, I think this is probably the last year that there will be any meaningful number of them planted because everybody's planting them.
Yep. I mean, that's why I crossed my 1461 with the 2365. It didn't turn out. I have like 10 seeds and hopefully a few people plant them, but I don't know. I don't know. Just didn't produce any seeds.
Hate it when that happens. That's like my 1783 didn't have a whole lot of seeds. There was some more in there. I just didn't take them out, and now I regret that.
And now in that seed, I mean, I don't know if you've talked about it on this podcast, but that seed has grown great big neon orange seeds. I mean, that could be the next Tiger King in a way. I mean, that seed was awesome and produced some results last year.
Yeah.
Are you growing it?
I'm growing one. I'm going to grow that. I'm going to grow the 2006 Wolf. And then I'm thinking about growing a squash. Actually, Cindy may have turned me to the green side with all the squash talk. Squash does count towards a GPC patch, so I might.
Which squash are you going to grow from her? The 2030?
Whichever one Jason knows. Jason knows what I'm growing. Whatever she sends me.
Cool.
He put a bubble in the mail for me today, and for that. So, thank you very much, Jason. I owe you one. Casey has the 2365 times 2365. Are the genetics still there? Yeah, that's either a self or a sibling, depending upon how you did it. The 2006 Wolf that I'm going to grow this year is just that. It's a 2365 times a sibling. So that's very much a thing. Or anything with the 2365 is very much a thing.
And I agree. Yeah, 2365, and then if you can have any 1885 in there, then it seems to be magic.
Yeah, that's and my 1783 had some 2005 haste in it, which is a cross that really nobody else has made. So I had a lot of people ask me for that seed this year. Hopefully they see some dirt, but I think I have like less than 10 left. So hopefully.
I mean, just talking to you, there's a chance that instead of the 2266 Kissamore, the 1783 finds dirt, and then I just talk the kids into planting something else.
Yeah, all of them went. The biggest ones were grown by first and second year growers. So like a second year grower grew a 1900 and an 1800. That both of those went heavy, and they were part of the I forget which way off it was, but the biggest way off ever with the top 10 average. So that was pretty cool to have a little bit of that. Like my portion of that is that much. That's all Brian. I just gave him the seed and he grew it. Why no MJ? I don't know what that means.
It's Michael Jordan seed. Why not Michael Jordan? I'm not planting MJ seed. I do have one of the MJs and I do have a Godzilla, but I want to at least plant 2 proven seeds, and my third is kind of going to be a risk. That's the reason for me. Man, it's hard because I want to plant the most proven seeds because I only have so many opportunities. And I want all of them to do well, and I want all of them to beat Chad. So that's why.
Yes, he wants them to, but whether or not it's going to happen is yet to be determined. But I agree. I have both those seeds, and since I want to beat Brad, I usually don't care about. I'll plant unproven seeds, but the only crummy thing about planting an unproven seed is basically what Brad just said: is that you can plant a proven seed, and it boils down to every year you have. For both Brad and I, we grow 3 pumpkins. So you have 3 chances per year. So what do you gain by growing an unproven seed? There really is no upside because the seed isn't going to go bad. So if 5 or 6 people grow Godzilla or Michael Jordan this year and it turns into a proven seed, then you still have it for next year. Or the inverse, if 5 or 6 people grow Michael Jordan and it just the seeds don't pollinate, they all abort, every single one turned out light, they all split, insert any number of things that no bad juju on Travis's seeds even a little bit, You never know. There's a big question mark, and hence the unproven characteristic of that. So, it pays to be a little patient.
Absolutely.
Casey said 2365 times 2006, a good cross. I think that's a great cross. Those all went heavy. They all were orange. They all, they all were awesome. The only problem I see with that is there's a whole lot of that family tree going on there. So at some point you have to start outcrossing it a little bit so you don't get some real funky things going on this year. Or
you know what I like better? 1783, 2006. Dude, that's gonna be an HD massive pumpkin producer.
And that's exactly what I'm going for. Those will be a reverse cross from one another. The squash, I think you have to self that to keep the the green. So I don't think I can cross that. Otherwise, you get a weird looking squash.
Dude, you could grow another squash outside to cross it. You need 4 plants this year.
I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Exactly. Let's see here. Just a couple questions. Get your last questions in. We're coming up on 2 hours. That's what we hard stop. But are you trying the 150 square foot challenge this year, Brad?
So, no. In theory, yes. I mean, so
just think how many 150 square foot pumpkins you could have in that greenhouse.
Oh my goodness, no. I'm not trying to kill myself and overdo it. The girls, if I have enough time to set up a patch for them, they're each going to have a 150 square foot patch. And like I said, I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. I don't expect great results. I'll water, but if they want to vineberry, they get to vineberry. They have to do that. I'll supervise, whatever, but we're not formally entering in on the 150 square foot challenge. I would like to, but man, summer's valuable. I love growing pumpkins, but I love my kids more than I like growing pumpkins.
Nail on the head, right there with you. They'll be out of the house soon enough, and then you'll have more free time than you know what to do with. So I'm all about that, spending time with the kids, which is like, do you and your wife have that instance where you're like kind of you're reminiscing the before times, like before kids, and you're like, we didn't do anything, and now that you have kids, you really have next to no free time, and you're like, what did we do with our lives? Were we just lazy, worthless ingrates? That's what we talk about. Like, we were worthless.
Dude, 100%. We've had this conversation multiple times of like, what did we do when we didn't have kids? Like, we just wasted so much time, because now that you have kids, you have to like prioritize your time so much. And you're like, what did we do? And like, we just wasted so much time doing nothing. Like, I could have achieved so much greatness prior to kids, and I didn't. I just wasted time.
Been like the president or something. Who knows?
I mean, nobody wants that, but I mean, yeah, in theory.
Yeah. That's that one gets us all the time. We're like, man, we're busy, but we thought we were busy before, but alas, we were not. And we'll end with the most important question of all from Jacob. I don't know why I keep calling Jason. Who is the king of Colorado?
I mean, that's obvious. It's you right now. And I'm hoping to dethrone him. So, I mean, until I have that title of state record holder, it's Chad New.
I don't know. It's either me or Joe. Joe's been doing it a long time, and the amount of knowledge that man has is massive. Mark Sawtell could be thrown in there as well. I have the state record, sure, but those guys have forgotten more about pumpkins than I probably currently know. So maybe in one hand, me, but I got to give those guys solid.
Hey, one quick question from me, But why don't you let your wife grow one? Are you afraid she'd beat you?
She has no interest. She has no interest in growing giant pumpkins. That is, she tolerates all of my hobbies, and she tolerates what I like to do, and the kind of the spontaneous, wacky person that I am. Like I was in Las Vegas last week fighting 250-pound robots, and then today I'm in the greenhouse for giant pumpkins, and we go fishing and hiking, and we stayed busy with crap that she likes some of those things, but when it comes to giant pumpkins, it's just another one of those, like, he's my wacky husband's hobby. it's my thing, not hers.
Touche.
What about your wife? Why doesn't she grow one? Are you scared of her?
Dude, that you simply answered that. She tolerates this hobby. She did ask me the other day, she was like, what if I wanted to take up a really expensive hobby? And I was like, yeah, go for it, because I don't have any feet to stand on if I say no, because we just invested $20,000 in a greenhouse. I mean, and that's $20,000. That's the base pay. We're not talking about running a sprinkler system and electrical and some of the other things that aren't covered. So yeah. I mean, if she wants to take up drag racing, so be it. I mean, who am I to say no?
That'd be awesome. You could have you could paint the drag racer like a pumpkin or something. Yeah, that'd be killer for sure. Okay, so we need to pick a winner, and the numbers were 1 through 100. I promise I didn't read any of them on my computer screen. So let's just say 32 is number 1, 88 is number 2, and number 67, that's number 3. So if you were one of those 3, send an email to Jason. It's Hazmat Rider. He has it pinned somewhere over there, Hazmat Rider something or other, in the chat. You reach out to Jason. Jason's not going to email you. You send Jason an email if you're the winner, and the backup number is number 1. So if you pick number 1, that is the backup. Ooh, Brian's growing a 1783 this year. My man, I got to send you some pictures. Ben, not Brian. Get everybody mixed up. I'm going to send you some pictures when we get off of this stream. I'm trying to catch up to Ben. Ben's going to grow. He's going to grow some big insert 4-letter word pumpkins this year. He's done. I'm really
also put in an awesome greenhouse. So big things.
Yeah, he's I guarantee you, I'm calling the shot. He's going to have over 2,000 pounds. I ain't putting the hex on you. I'm just calling.
Ben told me that he's been telling me his secrets and not you. So,
well, that's some bull crap, Ben. We got to talk. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to Brad's interview. Brad, thanks for coming on with us, man. I had a lot of fun with this one, a little more lighthearted and just some good conversation there. Thanks for sharing all your information with us.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
All right, everybody. We'll catch you out there. Send Jason an email if you're one of the winners. Go to Brad's social medias, the TikToks and the Instagram. It's the Gourd Father, right, Brad?
Yep, that's Gourd Father.
The Gourd Father. If you want to buy some of my seeds, I'm not giving them out for freebies anymore. I'm too busy. But if you want to buy some, go to coloradopumpkins.com. Subscribe to the channel. And we'll talk to you next week with Brian Turner. And that's all we got. Say bye, Brad.
Good night.
And I don't know how to end it on my phone. Let's maybe this button that says end. Ending.